The next generation curriculum. Some really exciting news has come to Wildwood School. With some hard work, we've been awarded the Next Generation Learning Challenge Planning Grant to implement a new curriculum model. The goal of this video is to help you understand most of the important elements of the model. You may have questions that this video doesn't answer, but don't worry. There are going to be mini lessons and blog posts and meetings, all to help you wrap your brain around this new way of doing school. Let's get started. NGC aims at integrating what is best about student-driven inquiry, challenge-based learning, 21st century tools, critical thinking challenges, and IB interdisciplinary learning. Some students at Wildwood will be doing NGC as standalone units, while others might be doing them integrated within their IB units of inquiry. Ideally, during the opening of the 2015 school year with the new annex, all students K-8 at Wildwood will be completing NGC units as standalone curriculum. The biggest change in NGC is that students are creating the curriculum. But what exactly does that mean? Students will be picking one concept idea from a list from each content area and will then build their own unit around those concepts. That means in a classroom of 30, there will be 30 different units going on at once, with a variety of intermixed concepts. This means that students have more control over topics that sound exciting and interesting, and that they will be responsible for doing more of the thinking and learning in the classroom than the teacher. This shifts the teacher's role from deliverer of content and controller of the pace to the supporter through cognitive challenges and developer of critical thinking skills. So, what are some of these sample concepts? These were pulled from a list generated for the 8th grade. As you can see, the literary category includes devices used by authors like allegory, a term often found on standardized tests, along with forms of writing like ethnography or beat poetry, and concepts concerning the form and function of language, like phonology. Science includes concepts around rules like entropy, innovative sources of science like green technologies, and concepts like scarcity that could be explored in a variety of ways like human resources or how an ecosystem functions. The social sciences see movements, modern day events and challenges, and time periods. What should be clear by now is that none of these concepts have a singular way of approaching them, nor indeed singular terms, big ideas, or themes that a student must learn. Part of navigating this new NGC system is that students become responsible for researching and understanding the breadth of a topic before choosing to dive into a more specific subset of information that they feel will help them make a stronger interdisciplinary connection between their other concept areas. But how are students recording this information? Well, we moved on from the traditional graphic organizers and days of pens and paper. Yes, they're useful, but we want to integrate 21st century technology skills along with our critical thinking and content acquisition. Weebly is a free website creation tool where students can drag and drop elements to create their own site. This includes adding YouTube videos, documents with PDF preview screens, Twitter feeds, titles, text boxes, photo galleries, and more. Students are learning ways to navigate online interfaces, manage information, present their learning, and share their thinking all at the same time. What is most critical about the process of an NGC unit is the final step, where a student creates a claim about how these concepts interact, about how they are related. You can see that a student who chooses allegory, superviruses and pandemics, and radicalism might be creating thinking that has never been done before. This is where we feel we're doing cutting-edge work, believing that students, before they graduate from college, are capable of being innovators of new thinking and learning. Once students have recorded all their findings, posted their links, and developed their claims, they have to decide what type of final product would best make visible their new thinking and learning. There are a variety of ways this could be done, and students should be able to choose given how their concepts lend themselves to presentation. Media sociologists would say medium is the message. Often how we choose to communicate information matters as much as the content, and we want students making authentic choices that they feel represent themselves and their learning. We want to record these products digitally. In a time and space when students have a virtual identity at a younger and younger age, we want anyone who searches a Wildwood student to find evidence of their positive contributions to the world community. We see it not only as an opportunity, but an obligation of school to begin helping students form virtual identities, or digital footprints as we call them, which show evidence of their thinking, doing, learning, creating, and an understanding of a world where being a compassionate upstander is the only meaningful choice. It all sounds great, at least we think so, but there's always that pesky problem of grading. Parents and students want feedback in number form about how they are measuring up. High schools require grades for entry, and so do colleges. Most of us at Wildwood would agree. Numbers don't say much about a learner, but we recognize that we need to find some way to stay true to our beliefs while still participating in the larger system. Here are the ways that NGC looks to innovate assessment. Our first and most important answer is, again, put it back into the hands of the students. At the end of a unit, students will select a number of standards. This may vary from project to project. Each will be selected from a range of IB criterion, Common Core, or National Science Standards. Once these standards have been selected, students will go back to their Weebly site and find specific evidence that shows they have met or are working toward that standard. This might include video links with explanations of how they use them or elements from their final product. Students will also be using the standards they selected to have their peers evaluate and give them feedback about their progress. Yes, peer assessment takes time and coaching in order for it to be meaningful, but it's critical that students are able to be vulnerable enough to hear honest critique about their work from their peer community. Peers will use a scaled rubric developed by Stanford University to help them assess how the units they are evaluating meet or exceed standards. Peers will take notes and find evidence during the presentation of the final products, and will also have access to the Weebly sites. But that's not all. Because students are responsible for understanding and owning their learning against the standards, teachers no longer need to give students specific feedback on either the standards or content. This means teachers can get to the real work about giving students feedback on their thinking processes. Teachers will be using a cognitive skills rubric developed by educational innovators from lead universities to give students feedback about their edges of growth as thinkers and learners. Some examples of cognitive assessments include identity and cognitive integration, how a student is applying their knowledge to who they are, and how they respond to challenges. We also feel it's critical for students to form meaningful relationships with mentor experts in the fields which they are engaged in studying, so that they can get world-class feedback about how their work measures up. Throughout the summer, we'll be collecting volunteers and creating a mentor database, which students will have access to. We feel it is important that students practice asking for specific kinds of feedback and guidance they need to help them make progress and develop skills of navigating the professional world as a part of college readiness. This also leads to an opportunity for mentors to give them feedback using both the standards and the cognitive skills rubric as students share their work digitally for feedback. These are the types of higher order thinking that schools need to be giving to students in order to help them truly be critical thinkers in the 21st century. But rubrics don't equal grades, and reaching a decision about numbers when grades can have such an impact on students' lives means we believe we need meaningful conversation about what those numbers are. NGC's solution is this: the student, peer assessors, teacher, and possibly mentor gather in a meeting to collaboratively decide on a numerical grade that they agree reflects the quality of the work. Students will receive a numerical grade for every standard they choose to be assessed on a unit on a 5-point scale. Students that the group agrees have not met the standard less than an 80%, will not receive a grade, but instead go back and develop the gaps in the unit and reconvene when they feel they've better met the standard. We believe that meeting a standard isn't a one-time goal, isn't a one-time grade, but a cumulative goal for the year, and so a student should not be punished with a low grade for not meeting the standard until they have had chances to keep practicing. Students will not receive grades for cognitive skills either. We're not grading how a student is growing in thinking. We're giving them guidance on how to keep doing so. We want students who feel confident, capable, and proud of their own thinking and learning journey. And grading something on a continuum that is as unique as thinking for each person would be inauthentic. There will, however, be a chance at the end of each quarter for students to give themselves a grade on their own growth in the cognitive skills. Have I applied myself to try and grow? How do I know I've made progress? Where do I need to keep working? What we feel confidently about is this: giving students a chance to develop honesty and authentic conversations about their work will have them understanding themselves as learners better, and thus will motivate them to continue working so those self-assessments are higher grades. The question might still be lingering for some of you. Yes, but why do all this work in such a high-performing, high-achieving, inquiry-based international baccalaureate school? Do we really need something else? In our opinion, yes, and here's why. Because we recognize that in the day and age of Google, when it takes seconds to find the answer to almost any question, specific content no longer matters. Instead, we want to use technology innovatively in ways that change the ways students think and learn. Point-and-click prepackaged tech programs, as nicely as they may line up on differentiation and standard-based learning objectives, are nothing more than digital workbooks. We believe adaptive technology should mean adapting the way we think about learning and using technology for its best attributes. The greatest attribute from our perspective is opening up the world of content to anything that students might be engaged in. What a benefit for a child choosing to go into tens of thousands of dollars of debt when they're finally accepted to university, if they could actually look at a course catalog and know a bit about each content area and if they might like to study it. This is a new kind of college and career ready. We also believe that it is critical that students experience how interconnected content is, that science isn't just a standalone class. Scientists and researchers always function inside the context of their culture, their environment, their political structures. The more students understand this reality, the more likely they will be able to make an impact in the world. NGC also gives a new edge of understanding to differentiation. It's not just about student choice. There needs to be built-in rigor and ambiguity, and the content concepts do this. And it's also not just about providing a wider variety of resources. The heart of the work of differentiation, as we now see it, should be in a teacher's ability to meet every student in their exact cognitive struggle and help them grow into better, stronger thinking patterns. NGC's approach to assessment recognizes that individual teachers making decisions about what each standard means, what's most worth evaluating in a content area, and how an individual measures up to that standard, means the learner is left jumping through hoops instead of focusing on the learning process. Ownership over assessment takes the pressure off to perform and refocuses the work on the goals of the process. Wildwood wants to see students using language of education to be in conversation authentically with the community in which they spend most of their day. I hope you have a better understanding of both the model and goals of the next generation curriculum. As we work through this creative innovation process as a community of parents, teachers, administrators, students, and mentors, we must stay open and responsive. Failure is an option, and we have much at stake in teaching our children how we respond as critical thinkers to those roadblocks and how we choose to transform them into meaningful experiences for our children's benefit. Developing ways to ensure every child's experience of themselves as learners, thinkers, and doers who are capable is always and will always be the heart of Wildwood School. And this is just one more way we are working towards that.